This is Marcus Washington from Making the Cut. How is everyone doing today as we are the first full day? We finally got into the first full day of the tournament, unless you want to count the playing games, which I know is technically the first four, but really it's playing games. And for those who were under a rock last night, even though I'm sure you don't need to know because you already know what the scores were, the Texas Southern over Mount St. Mary's 60-52. Drake over Wichita State, which came down to an end. Wichita State had a chance to win that at the end. Drake wins 53-52. Norfolk State and Appalachian State, same thing. App State had a chance at the end. Heck, App State came back from 18-point deficit in the second half and actually had the lead. And they let it go. Norfolk State wins 54-53, so that's good for the MEAC. And UCLA beat Michigan State 86-80 in overtime. Obviously, the controversy stems around the fact that Izzo grabbed a player, which is not all that unusual for him. I don't want to spend much time on this. As a lot of you know, I'm also a coach. And my thing is, even though I came from an era where you could say things and do things and stuff that's probably not sociable accepted today, you know, when I was a player, if a coach cussed me out, you know, parents didn't run up to the school. I mean, that's just the way it was. And it was kind of like, well, what did you do wrong to precipitate that sort of reaction? Now, that was back in the 1980s. In 2021, it's not acceptable behavior. I like Tom Izzo. I'm a huge Tom Izzo fan. I was a Tom Izzo fan before it was cool to be a Tom Izzo fan. But behaviors and times change, and I don't want to hear, oh, this generation is soft, or this is what's killing America, or any. I don't want to hear that. Not being able to grab a kid and to demean them and to be physical with them is not what is ruining anything. It's just that socially it's not acceptable anymore. So Tom Izzo, we've seen this at Michigan State before. Michigan State's also had other problems as a university. Maybe Michigan State just at that university should tell coaches and personnel just not to touch anyone because they've had some issues up there. Anyway, it was one of the better games of the night, and the NCAA is getting out of this what they want to get out of this, which is that first four ends up being a lot of excitement. They had two Power Fives playing against each other, something I've said time and time again, people thought would never happen. Because the thought process was only thing they'll do is put a bunch of the smaller schools in and blah blah blah. But no, I think the NCAA committee has done a good job, and they don't get as much credit as they really deserve. To be honest with you, they do a pretty decent job every year. But anyway, in our first Good Morning March Madness episode, we're going to take a look at today's game. This is not going to be a long episode. I find that videos that are long, unless they're almost like interview episodes, people tend to give up on it after a time being. They don't want to be spoken to, especially by one person, for like 45 minutes. So we're going to kind of go through these games. We're going to look at some. We're going to look at some of the lines. In fact, we're going to look at all the lines. That's what we're here for. If you're in the state of Virginia, like me, you do understand that even though sports betting was recently, they were recently acceptable. You can go and bet on your phone, FanDuel, AGM. There's a ton of them. You cannot bet on games that involve Virginia schools. That is one of the state laws here when they legalize sports betting. So the line I'm getting is the line on ESPN for the Virginia Tech Florida game, which starts at 12:15 from Hinkle Fieldhouse. It says it's Virginia Tech -1. And I do like the Hokies -1 in this one, even though they're the 10 seed. It's a very popular pick. 7-10 in this case is very interchangeable. That's not the case with a lot of the 7-10s, or with all the 7-10s is what I should say. But in this one is interchangeable. Virginia Tech is a 10 seed, but technically they're favored by a point. And I would say take Virginia Tech. At 12:45, I want to see if MGM has these things in order, because they continuously update the odds. At 12:45, we have Colgate at Arkansas. Everyone knows I'm pretty bullish on Arkansas. Razorbacks are not -9. As good as Colgate's been this year, and they have, and for those who don't know, I cover American University, which is in the Patriot League, which also has Colgate in it. So I've seen Colgate quite a bit over the last few years, just from covering the Patriot League. I do like Arkansas -9 in this one. Next is Drexel and Illinois. These are always the dangerous lines. You see it in those early preseason type tournaments, the Thanksgiving tournaments. You see it somewhat with the Christmas and New Year's Day tournaments. Illinois is -22.5. Well, we all know that Illinois is going to win. The question becomes, can they win by 22.5? Do they sub out if the league gets big? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just so much in play with that. What do you think? Can Drexel score enough points to cover the 22.5? Usually if they're going to cover 22.5, it's probably going to be a situation where they're going to have to score probably I would guess in the 70s, low 70s at least, because you're going to probably give Drexel somewhere in the 50s. If you think that Illinois will score in the 70s, then obviously you want to take the -22.5. If you don't, you want to take Drexel. In this case, I think I'm going to take Drexel plus the 22.5. I think Illinois end up subbing out at the end. This could be one of those backdoor covers. If you're betting real money, which I am not, if you're betting real money, frankly, I would stay away from a line like this unless you're 100% sure that either Illinois is going to put the foot on the pedal, or you think that Drexel can hang around. But for entertainment purposes only, take Drexel plus 22.5. Next up, Utah State, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is favored by 4. This is one of the games I've talked about before in one of my previous episodes. If you go on our YouTube channel at Making the Cut That Mook, put that in search, you'll get in there. You'll see I did a little bit of a bracket preview last about 7.5 minutes. I like Utah State. Now I'm going to take Utah State plus the 4. If you are bullish on Utah State, take them on the money line. But I do like Utah State to cover against Texas Tech. Or Roberts, Ohio State. Ohio State's -15.5. I do believe the Buckeyes clear that 15.5. They're rolling. They're playing really, really well. I think that continues. I think it's important for them to continue that. Georgia Tech is +5.5 against Loyola Chicago. As you know, Georgia Tech, one of their main players, will not be playing today. That probably skewed the line. In fact, it didn't probably skew the line. It skewed the line quite a bit to put Loyola Chicago minus that 5.5. I was picking Loyola Chicago anyway. Do they get to the -5.5? That's a tough line. This line was a lot more attractive before the announcement that Georgia Tech would have a player out. I'm going to go ahead and say Georgia Tech plus a 5.5, but Loyola Chicago wins. I think Georgia Tech will play a little bit better than people think, especially for people who haven't seen a lot of them. They'll stay within the 5.5, but I think Loyola of Chicago wins the game. Oregon State, your Pac-12 tournament winner, upsetting Colorado in the finals by 2 points. They are +8.5 on Tennessee. Tennessee's one of those teams. Again, they're not going to score a boatload of points. They really like to throw the ball inside. They like to throw the ball inside a lot. I don't think they use their wings particularly well. Their wings could be explosive if they will allow them to be explosive. They slow the game down. Tennessee wins the game, but I went Oregon State plus the 8.5. North Carolina and Wisconsin, usually I do stay away from North Carolina games. North Carolina is favored by 1.5. This is a tough one right here. North Carolina has to be engaged defensively because of Wisconsin and their swing offense. The misleading thing, the Big Ten, when you see Wisconsin twice a year, sometimes it's going to be once a year, but really twice a year, you kind of can plan for that swing offense because it's something you have to plan for every year. North Carolina does not have to plan for the swing offense because there's not anyone in the ACC that even runs those components in earnest quite a bit. So this could be challenging for North Carolina. Their bigs are going to have to go out and guard on the perimeter quite a bit. I don't worry about them being in screen and roll unless you're talking about Baca. He sometimes scheduling struggles in screen and roll, but for the most part, North Carolina's bigs do well. This thing comes down to Caleb Love. Like for the most of North Carolina's season, this thing is going to come where Caleb Love and Kerwin Walton and how they play. Love can be a volume shooter if it doesn't get past that 12, 13 attempts. Walton obviously has to make threes, and North Carolina, as always, needs to pound the boards. If North Carolina beats Florida State in the ACC tournament, they don't end up with this game because this one's a tough one for them. Just because how Wisconsin moves the ball and the function of their offense. North Carolina is favored by 1.5. I'm going to go ahead and take the Tar Heels minus the 1.5, but I would be wary. If you even have second thoughts, again, if you're betting real money, which again, I will emphasize again, I'm not. If you're betting real money, this is a game just stay away from. Don't even venture to bet on it. It just stay away from this game. But again, this is for entertainment purposes only, and I don't want to leave a game out. So take the Tar Heels minus 1.5. Houston and Cleveland State. Houston is favored by 20.5. Again, I am bullish on Houston. I think they want to make a run here in the NCAA tournament. Same thing is back with the Drexel game. How engaged will Houston be? How engaged will Cleveland State be? Is Cleveland State just happy to be there? We all know Houston's going to win. Can Houston win by 20.5 points? Becomes the question. And that's why these lines are so tough. That's why these lines are just generally they're lines to stay away from. Unless you're one of those historic teams, I would stay away from this line in real life. But we'll go with Houston minus the 20.5. That's just tough. Purdue, North Texas. Purdue is favored by 7. This has been I've seen a lot of North Texas picks to win outright. I like Purdue here. They didn't have to travel. North Texas has to travel. Purdue can be at least somewhat comfortable. And I'm going to go ahead and go against what a lot of people are doing. I'm going to go with the Boilermakers minus 7. Then the last game of the day, the vaunted 9:57 game, Villanova and Winthrop. Villanova, people have backed off Villanova because of obvious reasons, the injuries they've had, not having Colin Gillespie and that sort of stuff, which makes a lot of sense. I can understand why people backed off of it. But I actually like the minus the points, to be honest with you. I really, really do. Of course, my screen has gone away from me. I like them minus the points. I think that Purdue covers that 7. We're missing some games here, and I don't understand why MGM does not have them listed. I think we're missing games like Syracuse, which I also think is today. Let me go back here. Let's go to ESPN. Yeah, we're missing a host of games that they didn't list. Rutgers and Clemson. Rutgers minus 2. I like the Scarlet Knights there. Hands down, I think they win. One of my upset picks. Syracuse is plus 3 against San Diego State. I think Syracuse gets out the first weekend. I like the Orange out the first weekend. I know it's very unconventional, but I would take Syracuse plus 3 against San Diego State. West Virginia and Morehead State. West Virginia is favored by 13. I like Morehead State in this. I think West Virginia is starting to slow down a bit. I like Morehead State plus the 13. I don't like Morehead State to win, but I do like them plus the 13. As I scroll through, I want to be sure I have not missed a game. Yes. Again, this is what I get for trusting MGM's app. We miss Oklahoma State and Liberty. Liberty's pretty tough, man. If you don't live in the Commonwealth of Virginia, that's why we missed it, because they don't list games involving Virginia schools, because I live in Virginia. Oklahoma State and Liberty. Liberty's tough. If you don't live in Virginia, I think sometimes you don't realize how tough they are. They've been tough for years. They got a pretty decent program going down there. Cade Cunningham, everyone wants to see him in the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma State shouldn't even be in the NCAA tournament because originally they were supposed to be on probation. Right now that's being appealed. That allowed them to get in this year. I like Oklahoma State minus the 7. Baylor and Hartford is another one. This is today, right? Yeah, Baylor and Hartford wasn't on there either. Baylor minus 25.5. I'm not even going to go into that. I like the Bears minus the 25.5. And that does end the listing of our day. When we do Mornings with March Madness tomorrow. I would definitely double check MGM to ensure that everything is listed before we get on, because everything is not listed here on their website. But that's fine. That hits all our games. Again, we'll be back tomorrow morning with the games of the day tomorrow morning. We'll do a brief recap of the games today. If the ones that are interesting, I'm not going to sit around here and go through, a boatload of games, just the ones that kind of stuck out. And we'll go back over that. But really, it's going to be the games tomorrow that we will highlight. We'll go through again. We will pick the lines for each game. Look, if you want to see this broadcast again, I've seen some people jump in, jump out. If you want to see this broadcast again, this is being live streamed on both YouTube. You can catch it there. It'll be under the streaming portion. Also, you can catch this on Twitter, at MTC with Mook. You see that down there. If you're looking for our YouTube channel, it is put in Making the Cut with Mook in your search bar, and it'll come up. You can get a copy of this here. You can get a copy of that at Twitter. We also live stream over at Twitch. So you can catch me on all the platforms. Those are our predictions of the day. Like I said, if you miss any, go to those platforms and catch up with it and see how I do. Again, yesterday, for those who wasn't at the beginning, yesterday I was 2-2. I took a bad loss with Michigan State last night. 2-2 yesterday. Hit the Norfolk State game and the Wichita State game. Those were the two I got right. Missed the Mount St. Mary's game. Missed the Michigan State UCLA game. So again, we will see you tomorrow morning, and you'll get our picks. And like I said, we'll recap today and how I did. Thank you for joining us here on Mornings with March Madness.